They called me wretched at the family meeting, but minutes later, my private jet touched down in front of them. Their faces, priceless. Stay with me, you don't want to miss a single detail. Imagine being looked down on by your own siblings, judged as the one who never made it, only for the truth to come crashing down in the most dramatic way possible. In this story, I'll take you with me through that unforgettable moment when everything changed, the family's assumptions, the balance of power, and the meaning of success. And don't forget, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who needs to be reminded that success comes in many different forms. Now, let's get into it. My name is Danielle. I'm 35 years old, and I've been dreading this family gathering for what feels like forever. My sisters and brother always had a way of making me feel invisible, their remarks slipping in like tiny needles whenever my simple lifestyle came up. What they didn't know was that the business I had built with grit and sleepless nights had just been acquired for a fortune. But I've always chosen simplicity. I drive an old car, rent a cozy townhouse, and keep things modest because I don't let possessions measure my worth. Their judgments were about to meet a reality check. What they thought they knew about me was about to change. Completely. Growing up as the middle child wasn't easy. My older sister Monica, now 42, was the golden one, always excelling in school, later earning an MBA from a prestigious university and working her way up to a powerful role at a top consulting firm in Chicago. She flaunted the perks, the condo downtown, luxury vacations, the networking parties where important people called her by name. My younger brother, Caleb, just 29, found his way through marriage. He married into an established family that owned a chain of insurance firms across the Midwest. His wedding was a headline in the local paper, and now his life revolves around charity galas, golf tournaments, and fancy retreats. My parents practically worshipped his polished life. And then there was me, Danielle, the one who didn't quite fit the mold. Where Monica was calculated and image-focused, and Caleb was socially strategic, I was restless, questioning, and carving out my own path. When I was in high school, Monica was student body president, Caleb was the charming freshman everyone adored, and I was hustling, building websites for mom-and-pop shops around our town of Riverside Heights, Illinois. My parents brushed it off as a hobby that would eventually fizzle out. When I announced after graduation that I wouldn't be going to college, that I wanted to chase entrepreneurship full-time, you'd have thought I confessed to a crime. My father's words still echoed in me, "You'll regret this your entire life." That night, he couldn't even look at me across the dinner table. So, I left Riverside Heights with barely $300 to my name and a determination to prove them wrong. They gave me 6 months before I'd come crawling back. But I didn't. Instead, they created a narrative of their own, that I was struggling, barely making rent, jumping between odd jobs in some rundown apartment. The truth. It was hard, harder than I let anyone see. I failed multiple times. Nearly went broke twice. But then, my cybersecurity startup found its footing. A patent I developed changed how small businesses protected their data. I lived on ramen noodles and worked 16-hour days until it finally took off. By year 4, the company was worth over $70 million. And then, just 8 months ago, a bigger tech firm bought us out. Overnight, I became wealthier than I ever imagined. But I told no one. Each holiday phone call, each occasional visit, I let them believe their version of me. When Monica offered to connect me with starter jobs, or Caleb suggested I borrow his wife's old handbags to look more professional, I just smiled and thanked them. Easier than explaining why I still chose thrift stores over luxury boutiques, or why I was funding community schools in Ghana instead of buying vacation homes. 3 weeks ago, everything shifted. Mom slipped on the porch and broke her hip, and Dad's early dementia started advancing faster than expected. They couldn't keep up financially with the medical bills. Monica organized a family meeting, of course. Her tone over the phone carried that familiar condescension as she asked if I could help a little, within my means. Now, as my plane prepared to land back in Riverside Heights, my chest tightened. I had spent years keeping them at a distance, surrounding myself with people who valued me for my ideas instead of my bank account. But family has a way of pulling you right back into old roles. Would this finally be the moment I told them the truth? Or would I keep my silence and play the struggling sister a while longer? I hadn't decided yet. The morning of my flight, I stood in front of my closet in my Atlanta loft, carefully picking the plainest things I owned. I chose worn-out jeans, a faded sweatshirt with a loose seam at the wrist, and sneakers that had seen better days. I packed everything into an old duffel bag instead of the sleek designer luggage my assistant had gifted me last year. My assistant, Tasha, raised an eyebrow as she watched. "You're worth millions, Danielle, and you're out here dressing like a college kid coming home for laundry day?" she asked, shaking her head while holding my itinerary. I zipped up the duffel and smiled. This is what they expect to see. If I show up polished, the whole illusion cracks too soon. I'm not ready for that yet. On the flight, I stared out the window and thought about why I'd kept this facade alive for so long. The truth wasn't simple. Part of it was strategy. In business, I had learned that being underestimated was my secret weapon. People revealed things around me when they assumed I was small, unthreatening, insignificant. I used that to my advantage. With my family, it was different. Their low expectations meant I never had to explain my choices, never had to defend my success on their terms. But beneath that, if I was honest, their dismissal had wounded me deeply. Every joke about me not settling down, every reminder that I wasn't following Monica's example or Caleb's stable path. It built a wall inside me, one made of silence and secrecy. I still remembered Christmas 5 years ago. Monica had leaned across the dinner table, glass of wine in hand, and told me flatly, "Danielle, some people just aren't built to lead. It's not a bad thing. Some of us innovate, some of us support." That night, I had stepped outside, pretending to take a phone call while I swallowed my tears. Hours before, I'd closed an international expansion deal for my company worth millions, and yet there I was, treated as the family disappointment. When the taxi from the airport rolled through Riverside Heights, the streets felt frozen in time. The same bakery where Mom used to buy sweet rolls. The same park where I first sketched out ideas for my business as a teenager. It all seemed so small now, like a stage I had outgrown. Pulling up to my parents' house, I hesitated. The 2-story brick home looked the same as always, except for the new ramp added to the porch. My chest tightened with a rush of nostalgia and dread. Before I could knock, the door swung open. Monica stood there, sharp as always in a blazer and tailored pants, though she claimed to be relaxing at home. She glanced at her Rolex before giving me a tight smile. "You're late," she said. "Did your bus from the airport get stuck?" Her eyes slid over my plain clothes, her lips twitching in faint satisfaction. "Good to see you too, Monica," I replied, giving her a hug she returned stiffly. "How are Mom and Dad?" "They're holding up," she said with her usual air of authority. She took my duffel, noting its worn condition with obvious judgment. "I've been here since yesterday arranging things. Caleb and Jasmine arrive tomorrow. You'll be in your old room, of course. Nothing's changed there." She spoke without pause, already sliding into her role as the one in charge. "If you need help covering your expenses while you're here, just let me know. I know taking time off work must be tough for you financially." Her tone was sugar over steel, the first of many condescending offers. I kept my reply simple. "Thanks, I'll manage." Inside, Dad was asleep in his recliner, thinner than I remembered, his hair nearly all gray now. Mom shuffled around the kitchen, moving carefully with her cane. "Danielle," she exclaimed, her face lighting up. She hugged me warmly, then hesitated, her eyes flicking over my outfit. "You look healthy. Are you eating enough, baby? Groceries can be expensive." I smiled softly. "I'm fine, Mom. Tell me how your recovery's been going." She launched into details while Monica hovered nearby with her usual binder of research, care facilities, medical breakdowns, costs, options. Impressive, sure, but dripping with the assumption that she'd be making decisions alone, while I, the struggling sister, would just follow along. "We'll discuss all this at the meeting tomorrow," Monica said, tapping the binder. "I wanted you to have time to process the realities. Quality care isn't cheap." Her emphasis on cost was aimed squarely at me. I nodded quietly, though I already knew I could cover everything with ease. Tonight wasn't the time to reveal that. That evening, Mom insisted on hosting a family dinner despite her limited mobility. I offered to cook, but Monica had arranged a fancy meal delivery instead. Roasted lamb, truffle mashed potatoes, fresh salad, artisan bread. "This must have cost a fortune," Mom said, placing the dishes on her best china. Monica, you're always so thoughtful. It's nothing, Monica said with practiced modesty. The firm had a good quarter. The doorbell rang just then. Caleb and his wife, Jasmine, swept in like royalty. Caleb carried designer shopping bags, while Jasmine looked like she had stepped off the cover of a lifestyle magazine. We're here, Jasmine announced, kissing Mom on the cheek and passing out gifts. A leather-bound planner for Monica. Perfume for Mom. A bottle of fine bourbon for Dad. When she got to me, her smile faltered just slightly. And for you, Danielle. She handed me a mid-range clothing store gift card. I thought maybe you could use this for some professional clothes. You know, for interviews. Thank you, I said evenly, slipping it into my pocket. Well, we all want to see you land on your feet, she replied with her best imitation of sisterly concern. Speaking of which, Caleb just got promoted to VP. We're remodeling the kitchen with imported Italian stone. Dinner conversation became a parade of achievements. Monica's latest promotion, Caleb's golf tournament win, Jasmine's charity gala. When they turned to me, the questions dripped with pity. So, Danielle, Jasmine asked, swirling her wine. What are you up to these days? Freelancing, something with computers, right? Small business solutions, I said vaguely, scooping more potatoes. Still freelancing? Monica jumped in immediately. I know a few people who might need basic websites. Nothing major, but it could give you steady income. I nodded politely, swallowing the urge to laugh. My so-called freelance work had just sold for over $70 million, but here I was, cast as a family project. The conversation eventually turned to the real reason for the gathering, our parents' care. Monica clicked into presentation mode, describing elite facilities with premium amenities. Caleb chimed in about exclusive communities near them, with Jasmine adding details about the wonderful social environment. Their glances excluded me from the collective we. It was clear they would handle the important decisions, and I'd be expected to pitch in whatever scraps I could manage. Of course, these places aren't cheap, Monica said, locking eyes with me. But Stephanie and I have already discussed contributions. Everyone should give according to their means. You can contribute whatever you're able. Even a token amount. The sting wasn't from their assumption that I couldn't pay. It was from their complete refusal to even ask what I might be capable of. They already had me pegged. As dessert was served, I made up my mind. Tomorrow, during the official meeting, they'd finally learn the truth. The next morning, the official family meeting began promptly at 9. Monica, of course, had everything staged like a corporate seminar. She'd set up her laptop and a projector on the coffee table, complete with a PowerPoint presentation titled, Parental Care Options and Financial Responsibilities. Mom and Dad sat quietly in their chairs, while Caleb and Jasmine perched neatly on the love seat, both dressed in crisp business casual outfits like this was another networking brunch. I sat on a wobbly ottoman in the corner, the most uncomfortable seat in the room, an unspoken reminder of my place in our family dynamic. I've compiled extensive research on the top senior care facilities in the region, Monica began, clicking through slides of immaculate campuses, manicured lawns, elegant dining halls, memory care wings that looked like five-star hotels. Her voice carried the practiced rhythm of a consultant presenting to clients. She explained the benefits of each option: private apartments, wellness spas, cultural outings, personalized medical programs. Her clear favorite was the most expensive, a brand new center outside Chicago with golf courses, art studios, and gourmet chefs. Mom's eyes lit up at the photos but clouded with worry when Monica transitioned to the costs. Now, of course, premium care comes with premium costs, Monica emphasized, clicking to a slide with bold number circled in red. The amount made Mom gasp softly. Dad shifted uncomfortably, his confusion clear. This, Monica continued smoothly, is the gap between their retirement income and the actual monthly expenses. That's what we, as a family, need to cover. Caleb leaned forward, eager to show his financial prowess. We've already discussed this. Jasmine and I can cover 35%. Monica says she can handle 50% with her bonuses and stock dividends. That leaves the remaining 15%. All eyes turned to me. It wasn't a large figure, not compared to what I could actually contribute. But the silence in the room was thick with doubt. Could I manage even that? Monica cleared her throat delicately. Danielle, we know your situation is different. If 15% is too much, maybe you can contribute in other ways. Helping care for mom when you're in town, for example. Jasmine added sweetly, we don't want to create hardship for you. Maybe $500 a month would be more manageable. We could cover the rest. The patronizing tone made my stomach twist. They weren't even asking me, they were telling me what they thought I could afford. Before I could respond, Dad spoke up, his voice unsteady. Danielle, baby, do you even have a steady job right now? Last time we talked, you said something about projects here and there. I opened my mouth, but Monica cut me off, as if she'd been waiting. Actually, my firm has an entry-level marketing position opening soon. The salary is modest, but for someone like Danielle, it could provide stability and benefits. I'd be happy to recommend her. Jasmine clapped her hands together. That would be wonderful for you, Danielle. A real job, with real security. I clenched my jaw. Their assumptions had gone beyond insulting. They'd become a cage. They had locked me into a story of failure so tightly that they couldn't imagine any other reality. I appreciate the thought, I said carefully, keeping my tone calm. But I'm comfortable with my professional situation. Monica exchanged a knowing look with Caleb. Being comfortable isn't the same as being secure, she said. You can't freelance forever. Jasmine chimed in. Didn't you mention having roommates last time? That's basically couch surfing. I blinked in confusion. Roommates? She nodded. You never invite us to visit. It sounds like your living arrangement isn't permanent. I realized then what had happened. I'd once mentioned my house manager and assistant sometimes stayed at my place. Somehow, that had been twisted into me sharing rent with roommates in a shabby apartment. I have a stable home, I said firmly. But not stable enough for a car, Monica pressed. You had to take a taxi from the airport. Do you even own one these days? The absurdity of it almost made me laugh. But instead, I leaned back and let them dig deeper into their misconceptions. Danielle has always been our free spirit, Mom said, trying to smooth things over. Not everyone needs money to be happy. That's easy to say, Monica muttered, when money isn't an option. That was it. 10 years of condescension, of being written off, crystallized in that moment. I knew what I had to do. I need to make a quick call, I said, pulling out my phone. Monica frowned. Now! We're in the middle of something important. I ignored her and dialed Tasha. Hey, it's me. Is everything set? Perfect. Have them land in 15 minutes. Yes, the front yard is big enough. I hung up and slipped my phone into my pocket. Sorry about that, I said calmly. Just confirming my transportation. Monica narrowed her eyes. What? Another taxi? Not exactly. I smiled faintly. Now, about those care options, I actually have another facility in mind. One that isn't on your list. Monica's brows knit together. That's impossible. I researched every high-end option within 50 miles. This one's different, I said. It's private, not listed publicly. Jasmine laughed. And how would you know about some secret facility? I held her gaze. Because I helped build it. A stunned silence fell. Caleb chuckled awkwardly. What are you talking about, Danny? You can't mean. Before I could answer, the deep whir of rotor blades filled the room. The sound grew louder until the windows rattled. Mom jumped in surprise. What on earth is that? We all turned toward the window just as a sleek black helicopter descended onto the front lawn, blades chopping the air, bending the grass flat. What the hell? Caleb muttered. Should we call someone? I stood, adjusting my sweatshirt. No need. That's mine. They all stared at me, slack-jawed. You said I couldn't even afford a car, I said evenly, grabbing my bag. You were right. I don't own a car. I opened the door. The pilot in uniform gave me a respectful nod. I prefer this instead. The sound of the helicopter still thundered in their ears as I stepped out onto the porch. My mother's face went pale, and she sank onto the sofa, whispering a prayer under her breath. My father stared wide-eyed, as if the sight before him didn't belong to reality. Monica's mouth opened and closed like she was trying to find the right words, while Caleb clutched Jasmine's hand in disbelief. "That can't be for you," Monica finally snapped. "It is," I replied simply, slinging my duffel over my shoulder. The pilot cut the engines and waited by the door of the chopper, his headset gleaming in the morning light. "Where are you going?" Jasmine asked, her voice higher than usual. "Nowhere without y'all," I said, turning back to face them. "I think it's time we finish this conversation somewhere else. My place. There's room for everyone." They were too stunned to argue. 10 minutes later, we were all strapped in, headsets on, the helicopter lifting off from the front lawn. My parents held each other's hands tightly, Mom still whispering prayers, while Monica sat stiffly, arms crossed, her eyes darting over every luxury detail of the aircraft. Caleb was the first to break the silence. "So, Danielle, what exactly is going on?" I leaned back in the leather seat, my voice calm. "You'll see soon enough." The flight was short. As the city faded behind us, green hills rolled beneath the chopper until my estate came into view, a sprawling, renovated mansion on nearly 30 acres of land. The house stood tall with stone walls and large glass windows that reflected the sunlight. The grounds stretched wide, landscaped gardens, a lake that glimmered like glass, and a modern helipad built beside the property. Staff waited below, already prepared for our arrival. The chopper landed smoothly. As the blade slowed, I removed my headset and looked at my family. Their faces told the story. Disbelief, confusion, awe. I stepped out first, then turned to them. "Welcome to my home." Mom clutched her purse to her chest like it was a shield. This is yours." "Yes, Mom. I bought it 6 months ago when I decided to open a regional office nearby." Monica finally found her voice. "Office of what, Danielle? What kind of job pays for this?" "Not a job," I said evenly, leading them toward the wide double doors. "A company. Mine." Inside, the foyer stretched high, with a sweeping staircase and a chandelier glittering overhead. My siblings froze in place, their eyes bouncing from the polished marble floor to the tall windows overlooking the gardens. "My company is called Denver Security Systems," I explained, gesturing toward the sitting room. "I started it 8 years ago. We build cybersecurity solutions for small and mid-sized businesses. 8 months ago, we were acquired by a larger firm for just over $70 million. I kept equity in the parent company. That's why all this is possible." Silence. Jasmine's jaw dropped. Caleb rubbed his forehead as though the numbers themselves were too heavy to process. Monica, usually quick with her words, could only mutter, "70 million. Dad let out a soft whistle. "My Danny." Mom shook her head slowly, tears brimming in her eyes. "All this time, we thought you were barely scraping by." "You assumed," I corrected gently. "And I let you. I chose to live modestly, not because I couldn't afford more, but because I didn't want wealth to define me." Monica's eyes narrowed. "Why would you hide this from us? Why let us believe you were failing?" I met her gaze squarely. "Because every time I mentioned my work, you brushed it off. Every time I spoke about my ideas, you dismissed them as a hobby. You preferred me as the family underachiever. It made your choices shine brighter. It was easier to stay silent than to fight that narrative." Her lips pressed into a thin line. I turned to Jasmine. "And yesterday, you handed me a gift card for interview clothes, as if I needed help finding work. That wasn't kindness. That was condescension." Color rose in her cheeks. "I was trying to help." "No," I said firmly. "You were trying to confirm the story you've all told about me. That I was lost. That I needed saving. That I could never succeed on my own terms." The silence that followed was heavy, but this time, it wasn't disbelief. It was realization. I motioned to my assistant, Tasha, who entered quietly with a folder. I placed it on the table and slid it toward my parents. "This is what I really came home to talk about. I've already secured your care. The trust is set. The facility is ready. It's one of the most advanced in the country, designed with dignity and innovation in mind. And it's funded by my foundation." Dad's eyes widened as he skimmed the documents. You planned all this?" "Yes," I said softly. "Because I love you both. And I wanted you safe, no matter what. Mom reached for my hand, tears slipping down her cheeks. We never knew. We never understood. You didn't want to understand, I corrected gently. But now you will. Monica crossed her arms tightly, but her face had softened. Caleb sat in silence, his pride battling with awe. Jasmine looked down at the glossy marble table, unable to meet my eyes. For the first time in years, I felt the balance shift. We moved into the dining room for lunch, the table set with fine china and fresh flowers. The food smelled incredible, prepared by my chef, not delivered by Monica's app. My family sat in silence for a while, adjusting to the new reality. Then the questions began. Mom wanted to know about my travels. Caleb asked how I'd managed to grow my business without investors pulling strings. Even Monica, who'd built her whole identity around being the authority, leaned forward, genuinely curious for the first time. I explained everything. The sleepless nights, the failed startups, the years of living on ramen in a studio apartment with a leaky roof. Then the breakthrough, the patent that changed everything, the contracts that followed, the day my company became a name in the industry. For the first time in years, they weren't seeing me as the struggling sister. They were seeing me. After lunch, I gave them a tour of the estate. We walked past the gardens and down to the lake, sunlight glittering on the water. Caleb couldn't stop glancing at the guest cottages. Jasmine touched everything like it might vanish. Monica trailed behind, unusually quiet. We settled on the patio with coffee, overlooking the lake. The conversations grew more vulnerable. When did you know it would work? Dad asked, his voice clearer than I'd heard in weeks. There wasn't one moment, I admitted. There were years of failure before it came together. Twice I nearly lost everything. But the third time, we built something the world actually needed. Mom's brows furrowed. Why didn't you ever ask for help? We could have pitched in. With conditions, I said softly. Every offer came with an expectation that I'd admit I was wrong and take the path you wanted. I needed to prove, mostly to myself, that I wasn't wrong. That silence hung heavy until Monica finally spoke. Her voice was low, almost shaky. I owe you an apology, Danielle. I built a narrative about you that had nothing to do with reality. That was about my own insecurities, not you. I blinked, surprised. Monica never admitted fault. Your insecurities. She sighed, setting her cup down. I did everything by the book. School, career, status. And yet, most days, I feel like I'm going through the motions. So when you chose differently, I needed you to fail. Your success means I might have chosen wrong. Her honesty cracked something open. Jasmine, who'd been fidgeting with her wedding ring, finally spoke up. I feel the same. My life looks perfect online, but Caleb and I have been in counseling. The galas, the country club, it all feels empty sometimes. Caleb nodded, taking her hand. We've been talking about scaling back, focusing on what really matters. But admitting that out loud isn't easy. I sat back, stunned. For years, I had assumed they looked down on me from a place of perfect contentment. Now, hearing their confessions, I realized they had been just as trapped by expectation as I had been. Why keep your success secret so long? Dad asked, his gaze steady. Were you punishing us? The truth stung. At first, I stayed quiet because I wasn't sure it would last. Later, it became a shield. And yes, maybe part of me wanted that dramatic moment, to prove you all wrong. Mom gave a watery laugh. Well, the helicopter certainly was dramatic. I chuckled. Not my most mature decision. But after Monica said I couldn't even afford a car, something in me snapped. That one's on me, Monica admitted, rubbing her forehead. I deserve the spectacle. The tension eased into a laugh, our first real laugh together in years. We shifted the conversation back to what mattered, our parents' care. I explained the model of my foundation's facility, small, home-like communities with personalized memory care programs, not cold, institutional halls. Dignity first, independence preserved as long as possible. And it's already covered, I said, showing them the trust documents. You don't need to worry about money. Ever. Covered by you. Caleb asked, still struggling to reconcile what he was hearing. Yes, but this isn't about me taking control. It's about us deciding together, as equals. Equals, Monica repeated, almost hasting the word. That'll take some getting used to. Same here, I admitted. I've spent so long defining myself in opposition to you that I'm not sure I know how to just be your sister. That afternoon, something shifted. The hierarchies we had lived under cracked. For the first time, we spoke honestly, not as roles, but as people. Mom shared childhood memories that made us laugh until tears rolled. Dad, lucid in rare moments, reminded us how much he just wanted his children united. When evening came, I invited them to stay in the guest wing. Caleb and Jasmine accepted quickly. Monica hesitated, then nodded. My parents were just thrilled to have all their children under one roof again. Dinner that night was filled with stories, both painful and joyful. Monica confessed regrets about chasing status. Caleb admitted fears about living a life that wasn't his own. Jasmine asked if she could volunteer at the Foundation's arts program. For the first time, I felt like we weren't competing, comparing, or condescending. We were connecting. Later, on the terrace under the moonlight, Monica joined me with a glass of bourbon. She raised it slightly. You've done well, little sister. Not just the money, the courage, the vision. I don't think I've ever told you that. I clinked her glass softly. It's never too late to rewrite our story. The next morning, as sunlight filled the breakfast room, my family gathered for one last meal together. The tension was gone, replaced by something new. Curiosity, humility, maybe even hope. Before they left, Mom squeezed my hand. I want to know the real Danielle now, not the version we made up in our heads. Tears pricked my eyes. And I want to know the real versions of all of you, too. For the first time in decades, I believe we actually could. As the helicopter carried my parents back home, I stood on the terrace overlooking the lake. For years, I'd thought success meant proving them wrong. Now, I saw it differently. True wealth wasn't the mansion, the millions, or the dramatic entrances. True wealth was this, being fully seen, fully known, and still loved. And maybe, for the first time in my life, I was ready to have that. Thank you so much for watching this story. Danielle's journey shows us that true success isn't about flashy cars, expensive clothes, or other people's approval. It's about walking your own path and staying true to yourself. Have you ever been underestimated by your family, friends, or even co-workers, only to prove them wrong later? I'd love to hear your story. Drop it in the comments below. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that success comes in many forms. And remember, wealth isn't just measured in dollars, it's found in authentic connections and living a life on your own terms.